So now that we've talked about 3 types of measures of center, a 5-number summary to summarize some of that, and a box plot, which is a visual of that, the next thing we want to consider is an outlier. And by definition, an outlier is an extreme value relative to the others. Keep in mind, it's not necessarily wrong. If we were looking at people's salaries, we could have one person who makes an incredible amount of money in this class. We're not going to throw that person out. They're fine in this class, and that's really what they make. But we want to know, is the amount of money they make considered outrageous? Is it an outlier compared to our data set? So the way that we find the outliers is first we want to find Q1 and Q3. We don't need the median. We use Q1 and Q3 to find what's called the IQR, the inner quartile range. It's basically the middle 50% of the numbers, and I went ahead and wrote it out as a formula. Now, based on this, we can decide if something is an outlier based on whether it's below the lower cutoff or above the upper cutoff. So in terms of the lower cutoff, we take Q1 and we subtract 1.5 times the IQR. So that means we're multiplying 1.5 times the inner quartile range. For the upper cutoff, this time we take Q3. A lot of people miss that, and we add. So in this case, let's go ahead and look at the example. The question says, are there any outliers for this particular set of data? That's not the 5-number summary, that's a set of data. So the first thing we would need to do is find Q1. I went ahead and already did the work, and I got 7. You might want to do it on your own and check it. Then we need to find Q3, and I got 12. So I've done step 1. I found Q1 and Q3. Next thing I need to do, find the IQR, the interquartile range, and the formula is Q3 minus Q1. So in our case, 12 minus 7, and that gives us 5. So I have my interquartile range. I'm ready to find my lower cutoff. The formula for the lower cutoff is Q1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range. So I take my 7 minus 1.5 times the 5 I got from the interquartile range, and my lower cutoff is negative 0.5. Now, I don't know what this list of numbers represents, and negative numbers might not be possible, but if that's the case, it just means that I'm never going to have an outlier on the lower end. But negatives could be possible if this was temperature. So next is my upper cutoff. Going back to the formula, remember this time it's Q3, and we add 1.5 times the interquartile range. My Q3 is 12, and my interquartile range is still 5. That hasn't changed. And when I calculated this, I got 19.5. So the original question asked, did I have an outlier in the set of data that started with 3 and ended with 18? My answer is no. And recognize that that no is because there are no numbers that are below my lower cutoff of negative 0.5, or are there any numbers that are above my upper cutoff of 19.5? So no number in that list is considered extreme.